Hi everyone, and welcome to this quick guide video run by the University of Reading. Today we're going to be exploring the topic of study skills. My name's Louise and I'm going to be running the presentation today, and I'm a Regional Student Recruitment and Access Officer for the university, and the region that I look after is London. In today's video, we're going to be covering some top tips for studying, both at school, college and beyond at university level. We're going to have a look into a little bit more detail about study methods and some different types of methods that might help you when you're doing your revision. And we're going to have a little look at university style learning and what you can expect to see when you go to university in terms of how your lectures, seminars and so on might be run. So let's get in with some top tips for studying. So how can you best maximise your studying potential for school, college and beyond? So some top tips I would start with is be prepared when you are going in to do some revision, to take some notes, to really review the work that you've done. Preparing yourself can be the most important step to start out right. So practice independent working. If it's not something that you're doing already, try to do a little bit of extra reading around the subject that you're learning. Try to make a timetable of when you're going to set aside time to do some revision and take control of your learning. Set up your study space. So for some people, they prefer to be in a kind of a little bit of a busy environment with some background noise. You might prefer to work in your local library or your school library or a school study space or even a coffee shop. Or you might prefer to have somewhere peaceful and calm and quiet, and hopefully you can find a nice space in your home that will serve that purpose. Make sure that your desk is nice and clean and tidy or wherever you're working, and that you've got all of the materials you need with you to start doing your work, whether that be your laptop, pen, paper, etc. Make sure that you've done any kind of extra research or pre-reading before you start your revision. You can't revise unless you've already done the learning in the first place, so make sure you have covered all of the topics that you need to. A lot of people find highlighting and annotating their work really useful, but do remember not to highlight everything, just the key words, and write down the key points that you have found in the text rather than highlighting lots and lots of it. Of course, as well, get some snacks and drinks on hand to make it a comfy experience so that you're not hungry or thirsty during. Another really good way to maximise your studying potential is to work out what kind of learner you are. So I'm going to describe the three main categories of learners, and you might find that some of these things resonate with you and you think, oh yeah, that's the kind of learner that I am. Or you might be a mixture of these things, or you might not have worked it out yet, and that's fine as well. It's all about experimenting and finding the right style for you. Auditory learners are people who prefer to learn by listening. So if this is you, you might want to try reading your notes aloud, discussing them with a friend. You might like to record key points and play them back to yourself on your phone. Another key category is visual learners, and these are people who prefer to learn by seeing and reading. So you might want to use colours in your notes, draw diagrams, help to represent key points. You also might try to remember some ideas as images. Then you've got tactile learners, and these are people who prefer to learn by doing. They are active learners. So you might want to use techniques that involve your body, like role playing or building models to revise key points. So this is just a quick summary of some of those ideas. So as I said, if you're a tactile learner, you might want to use gestures, repeat and represent key vocabulary and words. You might want to design some graphics or create some artwork to represent a story or a concept. You might even want to play charades with your friends and just really get active so that those points stick in your mind. If you're a visual learner, as I mentioned, you might want to use mind maps, pictures, colour coding, annotations, and using diagrams and headings to make your notes really visually appealing so they stick in your mind. And if you're an audio learner, you might want to debate your topic with a friend, record yourself speaking and play the material back to yourself, or even turn key points of a topic into a song so that you can remember it. There's various study strategies that we can use to best maximise your revision, both in school and at university. So I'm just going to go through some key tactics now. So firstly, variation. You might not have worked out what kind of learner you are, and that's fine. Try all those different methods and you can see which one is the best for you. So test with a friend, maybe you prefer to work by yourself, maybe you like to colour code, do some pictures. Also, some people do prefer to write their notes handwritten, and some people prefer to do it online on a laptop or an iPad. Just experiment and see which one works for you, and then once you find that, you can kind of stick to it and play to your strengths. Do make sure that you take breaks as well. The human brain can't concentrate for really, really long periods of time. It is difficult. So make sure you break up your study sessions to have some breaks, have a snack, stretch your legs, maybe go outside, so that you are fresh for concentration when you come back. You can use apps to your advantage as well, and I'll go through a couple in a sec. And there is a method that you might have heard of before called the Pomodoro method, and this is where you study on a certain subject area for 25 minutes of intense focus, and then you give yourself a short break before the next burst of energy. And a lot of people find this works really well for them because people can't concentrate for a super long period of time. A couple of apps that I might recommend if you haven't seen them already is RefMe. This is an app that uses your phone camera to scan barcodes on books or journals or whatever format your school or your university uses when it comes to referencing. You might not have referenced before, and that's fine, but it might be something you come across at university, and it can get a little bit confusing and a little bit overwhelming when you have to do it yourself, but there are apps that absolutely do it automatically for you and create a bibliography without you even having to do anything. So these can be really, really useful. Another app is called Study Blue, and this allows users to upload class study materials, create electronic flashcards, study and share with others, do practice quizzes. So if you're a visual learner, this might be a really nice one for you. There's also an app called Off Time, and this allows you to block certain apps on your device so that it banishes the distraction of social media. It's really, really easy to procrastinate on work and to distract yourself with other things such as social media. So creating a physical barrier to being able to access those things can be really, really beneficial when you're trying to get work done. Another method that's very popular with students is using the Cornell note method. And this is where you split your page into the diagram as shown on screen. You've got your title, your notes that you take during your lecture or watching a video, whatever it might be. And then you can condense them into the key points and then summarize them in 2 to 3 sentences so that you get all of the key information in one place. Once you've done that, you then might like to make it into a mind map or some pictures, whatever kind of learner you are. But this is a really good way to take notes during class or lecture so that you don't miss anything and so that you can condense your work into something that's more manageable. So as I say, the steps are to take your notes, paraphrase, draw pictures, whatever you prefer, review and clarify in the key points area, and you might also want to write any questions down that you might want to go back and ask your teacher or your lecturer that you might not have understood. In the summary section, you want to do 2 or 3 sentences to summarize the topic, and then consolidate your knowledge by using the key points and the summary section to create flashcards, pictures, diagrams, however you prefer. So finally, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about studying at university level. So what is it like to study at university? Well, it really does depend on the subject that you choose. Studying history, for example, is going to be very different to studying biomedical science. But often at university, there are lots of different ways that you can do your studying. So you might be taught through lectures, which is usually in a large room where you have your lecturer at the front who is talking to you about the topic for the week, and it's your opportunity to sit and listen and take notes, maybe use something like the Cornell note method when you're listening to your lectures. Then seminars are a bit more like classrooms, which you might already be familiar with. This is really an opportunity to ask questions, to debate and discuss, and tutorials are very similar to this as well. You might have workshops where experts might demonstrate certain things to you or use certain machinery depending on the subject that you're doing. You might be doing lab work as well if you're doing a science-based subject, some experiments. You might even do some site work. So if you're studying archaeology, for example, you might go on some digs. You might do a work placement as part of your course. You might attend lectures from visiting speakers. You might go on trips and also study abroad is an option on a lot of our courses as well. You might do practicals. So if you're doing a science-based subject, you might do an experiment, but also if you're doing an art-based subject, you might be having time in the studio. If you're doing film, theatre, television, you might be creating plays, recording content, etc. You also have access to office hours where you can go and see your academics and chat to them about any kind of questions that you might have or support that you need. There is study support available at the university as well, particularly in the library, so you can always go to these if you need that extra help. A lot of courses are on a modular basis, so there's different topics every term that you can choose to study. And then also it's important to look at how you are assessed. So some courses are assessed by coursework, essays, group projects, portfolios, or exams. And remember, every course is different, so do make sure you play to your strengths when you are choosing what kind of course you'd like to study. And finally, if you do need any help or support at all when you're at university, you just need to reach out and ask for it. At Reading, we have programs such as student mentoring, personal tutors, academic support, library services, and disability services. So if you do need any extra support, it is there for you while you're at university. I hope this video has given you a really good insight into the kind of ways that you might study at university and some tips and tricks to use while you're studying at school, college, and beyond as well. Thank you very much for listening. Bye.